I don't know, like most of life is that simple. We just don't give ourselves the mental space to ask super simple questions and then give ourselves real answers.
Garrett, thank you so much for hopping on the Creative Haven podcast. And to give you a little background, what we talk about usually on Creative Haven is the importance of creativity when it comes to business and society, but also at the same time, how to build brands and careers through content marketing, video marketing, creativity. And at the same time, how do you or your clients or anyone that you work with, how do you see creativity when it comes to its application to business and branding and marketing? Because I feel that a lot of creative people out there, a lot of artists and designers, they don't feel as valued, or they are stuck at full-time jobs they don't like, and they're trying to figure out what is the best course for them to go and pursue their passion. And so this is kind of to inspire them, but also teach people how to build their brands and their companies and careers through content marketing, advertising, and other techniques through creativity. So before we get into it, I'd love to actually ask you about your background and your story, and how you got into Directive, and actually your whole history in marketing and technology.
Yeah. So are we live right now, Mitchell? Just for
Yeah,
context.
yeah, for live.
Okay.
Mm-hmm.
Nice.
Yeah, I know. It's so funny. I always do that. I always have this nice little intro, and the people are asking, so is that the cue to go? Yeah, go ahead.
No, so yeah, I mean, I started more just like hustling. So I was on Fiverr selling $5 social media calendars, and then I was
Nice.
doing like there was like I used a library card, and you could use a library card to get access to a database, and so I was like doing like database exports for people. So I was
Yes.
like doing all that on Fiverr. I bet
Yes.
my buddy I can make like $1,000 a month, like working no more than like a couple minutes a day. So did that. I was working at the Chamber of Commerce. I was working for the school and the event staff, and then I had like 2 independent contractor gigs all at the same time,
Hell yeah.
just trying to figure out like what I wanted to do in consulting, because I kind of liked the idea of consulting.
Mm-hmm.
And then I wanted to go to one of the big shops like Boston, Bain, or McKinsey, or Deloitte, or one of those.
That's right.
And that didn't work out at all. Like I applied and pretty much got like auto response no. And so like my university wasn't even on their application portal. And I was like, damn. So
No Azusa.
yeah, Azusa, nobody cared about Azusa, man. So they don't tell you that before you sign up, by the way. Like, hey, if you want to go to any of the top firms, not gonna happen. So I did that, and I was like, all right, I'll start my own thing and figure out what people think I'm good at and what I like. So what do I like and what do people think I'm good at? And kind of landed on marketing, and then started selling SEO. First account was like a little shawarma shop.
Mm.
So I did their like Yelp page, Facebook, handed out flyers, did that for like 30 days, came back on the 30th day, said come back tomorrow. And then I came back and the whole place was boarded up. So that
No
was
shit.
kind of the start. And then I kind of just kept going. I was a little disappointed, but kept going. Got a hookah shop. I think I charged him like $200 a month to do his SEO. I ranked him number 1. Then I got a
Nice.
plumber. It happened to be my best friend's dad. Told him, hey, like he wasn't so sure. My best friend was like that sure of it all, but then it like worked for his dad, so he got excited. He joined me. That was my co-founder, and then yeah, fast forward, here we are today. So that's kind of how we got started.
No, I love that, because I actually go on Fiverr to hire a lot of contractors. That's like my
Yeah.
that's actually where I do a lot of my design funnels, just a lot of things. And so to hear from you, to do, to start with a Fiverr hustle, and that helped you figure out how to work with companies and brands. It kind of just, it's an amazing like the evolution, because I think that Fiverr, to me, it's elevated its talent pool right now. It's actually
Oh
as
yeah,
good
I'm
as
sure.
Upwork, to tell you the
It's a
truth.
whole other world too now on there. I'm pretty sure. Like because I haven't done it in so long, but like when I was doing it, like when I first started, it was just $5. So there's no
Hmm.
upsells, there's no custom pricing. So everything was $5. And then later they started to do like upsells and stuff like that. But then I was making a little bit more money, not on Fiverr, but then I let my wife run it for a while because she wanted some side money, and I had like a pretty good account on there. But yeah, it was a
Not,
interesting part of the journey.
yeah, it's right now nothing's for $5 on there. Everything is like maybe
Okay.
$25,
Oh, nice.
$35. So it's
I would have
30.
done way better.
Yeah, it's there's people out there who are their base price is $500 or 1,000. So they did that Amazon approach of, niche it up for
Yeah.
$5 and then just grow from there.
Cool.
But when you were getting into, SEO and working with different clients, like what was your process of getting more clients and more clients to build your company? Was it the just word of mouth, or did you find other ways of gaining more clients?
Um, I mean, I always invested really heavily in sales and marketing.
Hmm.
Um, so like when I started it, I always just wanted it to be the biggest one in the world. So I never ran it differently,
Nice.
I guess. So like I always had team members running the accounts. I always kind of put myself in a position where I could run the business.
Hmm.
Um, so like client calls, things like that, I purposely allow my team to do so that I can stay focused on what I'm trying to accomplish. So like I haven't even been on a client call in God knows how long, like years, right? Like I choose just how I run this thing a little different, I guess. Um,
That's awesome.
yeah. So from the beginning, honestly, like I was doing like Google My Business in the beginning because we were smaller. I was doing Yelp,
Hmm.
like SEO, like ranking organically, Google ads in the area, and then a lot of word of mouth. But at that point, I was still like doing sales and I was really involved. I wasn't necessarily doing the client work so much.
Hmm.
Like I would sometimes, like on the weekend or something, I would work to help the team, or if there's a project or like a big account that I need to help them with.
Hmm.
But most of it, I was still pretty involved. I'd call the clients a lot. So I'd be like, hey, you have any referrals? Anyone you know? So I was kind of just like hustling. Um, yeah, man, it's not that hard. If you hustle, I mean, you can totally do it. You just gotta like actually do it.
It's true. No, that's best tagline for any company is just do it, to tell you the truth.
Yeah.
For you, when you were getting into the role of a CEO, I know you start off, just hustling, building the business. When did you know it was time to delegate, and how were you able to build that team? Like, how were you able to find the right talent that you could trust?
Oh man, I probably just got lucky. I think it's not like even now it's hard. Hiring's hard. I think there's a book I read that I thought did a really good job for myself and for the leadership team called Who,
Mm,
HOW. And it's a book about hiring processes and how to interview better. And it was really good for our business. But even with that, like it's still not guaranteed. Um, and then the management team, we had some good men and women join us in the beginning who
mhm,
just were really passionate about their craft. I think passion is really important. And then um, they've done a good job learning to become managers. And I think we're
mhm,
all learning to do that ourselves right now. Like, how do I become a better manager? How do I get more performance
mhm.
when I'm no longer an individual contributor? Like, how do I get performance out of my team as their manager? What does that look like? What does that mean to me personally? And I think as the team keeps getting better at that, I mean, we've gotten lucky. I think we put a lot of time investment as an executive team with each other.
Mhm.
And, I spent a lot of time building relationships there, but yeah, they're really great. So I think, to be honest, you just have to want to have a great management team and then be able to like trust people. So I guess I'm pretty trusting, I'd say. Like I'm really intense and I'm very involved,
Mhm.
but I'm also not in the details of what they do at all. So I'm much more in the is what are you trying to accomplish as a leader, and is that like direction aligned with our vision and what we're trying to do over the next 3 years, right? And we're all on the same page. Where do we want to be in 3 years? And then I can look at what their quarterly roadmap is and say, okay,
Mm.
do I think that's in line with where they've said they're trying to go? So much more just like supporting them with that kind of stuff, and it's fairly basic, but yeah.
No, I love that. I think the idea of just building leaders within your company, it shows a true example of someone who is open to working with others and trusting others rather than micromanaging everything. And it's great that you got lucky with a great team beforehand, because a lot of people do have the
Yeah.
unfortunate circumstance of partnering with the wrong person. And so
Yeah.
when you are working with clients and you are working with, big enterprise companies and you have this team, what is your process of actually working with your clients? Now, what makes you unique at Directive?
Yeah. I mean, I think a lot of things can make a company unique. I think you have to start first with how you position your business.
Mm-hmm.
I think one of the biggest mistakes people make, and I made myself as like leaders of an organization, is not choosing a niche. And there's a billion reasons why we don't do it mentally. Usually it's because we don't control our pipeline.
Mm-hmm.
And if you can't control your pipeline, it's very daunting to think of what the next opportunity looks like. That's one core reason. The other is, I like working in lots of different industries. It's fun. And we do it for personal reasons.
Mm-hmm.
The hard part about running a great business a lot of times is you got to die to the personal reasons and keep it really focused on the business reasons. And so I think, and then you got to learn from that. Like you have to grow and figure out, how do I find myself creatively within this new confinement? Um, and then if you can treat confinements as opportunities for depth, then you can unlock new sources of creativity because your confinement is creating focus. Um, so like self-restraint, whether it's in working with people or organizing your business, is really, really important. And so what makes Directive unique is we really just work with software companies.
Mm.
Now we have legacy accounts and like, we have big, large business like companies we do work with that aren't software that we've been very, very successful with. But it's okay to not say you're for everyone. And I think that's a really hard thing for most people to do. But if you can, things like your gross margin, they get a lot better. In other words, your cost of goods sold,
Mm-hmm.
you get way better returns on your capital of employees, revenue per head count, for example. You have better margins, you have better retention. It's easier to hire. It's easier to do sales. It's easier to do marketing. Everything's easier because you can create focus. It's easy to do outbound sales development because you're only going after one vertical instead of unlimited.
Mm-hmm.
So yeah, man, I think what makes Directive unique is we're built for software. And so we have all these different clients who are trying to accomplish very similar objectives. So we have tons of first party data that you can't get anywhere else in the world. All of our tactics are shareable. What works on one account can work on others.
Mm.
And so time to success when you hire Directive is a lot faster than if you work with a different agency, because we don't have to learn the game you're playing. We have to learn your industry. We have to learn your product. We have to learn your business, but we don't have to learn your game. But you're all playing the same game. And from that shared language, shared experience, it gets a lot easier to drive results. And beyond that, I mean, the team here is the real deal. We give people very few accounts. Average person here has 4 accounts.
Nice.
Very low capacity compared to the industry.
Very true.
So tons of time, tons of resources, really great talent, and then only focus on software. You put that together, I mean, you get a really nice agency that can consistently deliver value.
That's great advice. I think the idea of confinement and really niching up your pipeline and also your client base is the best way to actually focus. Because it's true, there's a lot of companies out there, even including mine. I remember just saying, okay, I want to just do videos for everyone. But then if you do videos for corporate and you do videos for food and you do videos for fashion, there's no through line. There is sometimes you say, yeah, great video, put it on Instagram, throw eyes on it. But a food company has a different type of target audience than a corporate company that focuses on finance. So that's amazing that you focus on software companies. And when did you make that turn? Was it a certain company that you realized, I like working with this kind of people? Was it an opportunity that you saw in the business, or was it a random moment?
Yeah, I think most of my life is random moments that are like internally occurred just through like steeping your whole life in something.
Mm-hmm.
But no, I wouldn't say like I had some like epiphany. I was more just like, I was reading this book on branding. I forget the name of the book, but it was just like, where do you make your most money? And I was like, oh, I got a lot of software clients. Like, where are you most successful? I'm like, oh, I'm mostly software. Like, who's most of your reviews? I'm like, mostly software. Right? You keep going, who's most profitable? I'm like, mostly software. Right? Like, you just keep going down like this obvious list of like to type things. And it was like, all right, I should just do this. I don't know. Like most of life is that simple. We just don't give ourselves the mental space to ask super simple questions and then give ourselves real answers. So, my process for decision making a lot of times is writing down the facts, reading the facts out loud, and then your decision's so obvious, you just sounds stupid you didn't do it earlier. Most of life is pretty simple if you can keep it that way. The reason we fail is because of ourselves, not because of others, right? Like our own internal dialogue, our own internal decision making, our own accountability, preparation, follow through. Our businesses are only not bigger because of who we are, not because of anything else, right? And that's just it. So like if you keep it that simple and you keep pushing yourself and you keep changing yourself and you keep staying real with yourself, then you can grow.
Nah, I love that. I think that you have a really great mindset, actually. And I feel like you are someone who is a student of leadership books and self-development and just really growing every single day. And I think that is a great leader in my mind who's always open to grow. And do you find yourself now coming together with like a list of books or reading or whatnot for new employees or for your employees to keep in the same mindset? Or is it mostly just the way you act and to take actions that really drives how your company goes?
No, I mean, I try to share what I'm reading. I enjoy reading. I haven't been reading like the last couple days as much. I don't feel like, sometimes I go in and out, but when I'm in a groove, I mean, I go through like a book a week. So,
That's right.
Yeah, I think for me, like the reason we struggle with output is because we don't have the right input, right? So like what I do is more like I do what I call like more situational reading. So if I'm focused on a certain problem or there's something I want to get better at, I just buy a book on it. Like I know it sounds so stupid, and then I just go on Twitter and I just follow everyone in that industry. So like I wanted to get better at I think direct to consumer advertisers do a better job of communicating their brands than B2B companies. And because I think they have to, they have much lower cost per acquisition. They have to be very good in these super spliced transactional moments. That's because they have volume plays with low average order values and tight margins. So they have to get really, really good at some of their messaging, positioning, and value props to create like desire from an ad. Like someone sees the ad, they want it, they buy it, and they have to do it for less than $12 acquisition or whatever that is, right? And so B2B gets one deal a quarter to hit the number sometimes, and you can get a little lazy with your creative, and it feels very, well, that's not how they buy. And, well, yeah, they never buy. Your ad sucks. So it's like kind of like chicken and the egg thing with big B2B. So like I'll go follow everybody in D2C in Twitter and start engaging with that community. Or I'll go like, if I want to learn something about accounting, I'll go buy some books on accounting, or I'll go take over the books for, like when I first started this company, I ran all the books for the first couple of years. So I've taught myself bookkeeping and accounting. And so like, it's more just like teaching yourself what you need to know. Like, hey, how do acquisitions work? Go buy some books on M&A and teach yourself. Go call some bankers, talk with some private equity folks. Like, what are they looking for? Why? Like, know what you're building if that's where you're going, right? Like, so just more like common sense stuff. And if you just kind of say really like stupid and just keep it stupid, it works, if that makes sense.
No, it's true. I think we do overcomplicate a lot of things. I think it's also, the funny thing is, the smarter you are, the more you overcomplicate things. Sometimes you have to force yourself to dumb it down, actually, and just ask those simple questions. Because honestly, there are situations where it is truly what you say. What am I supposed to learn in this situation? Oh, I need to learn how to raise, some business leverage. Okay, cool. How do I do that? Okay, let me go find a mentor. Let me go get a book, or just do some research online rather than just trying to find, different ways to hack the system. But now asking you this, the whole idea of working with B2B and B2C, I love that conversation. When you are coming up with these campaigns, marketing or whatnot or advertising, how do you get into the creative flow, or how do you research a company and figure out, what should be the next steps for their marketing? I know you have like account executives handling this, but when you used to do that, how did you get into that flow, and how did you come up with that creative?
Yeah, more for me, just like personally, when I'm trying to be creative, I just need to get away. So what I like to do, to be honest, is like once the kids are down, had dinner, wife's doing whatever she's doing, I'll go out. I'll go to like a bar by myself with like pen and paper, and I'll just like work through whatever's in my head, and get myself space. Like I need to get into an area, like I just have a drink and then just like work through whatever I'm stuck on. And I usually, once again, can get there. Like I think it's better to be wise than smart. Like, and so I'm usually just trying to be wise about what I'm doing and why I'm doing it. And sometimes you got to get space to get in that creative moment. So for me personally, it's good. Like I need to maintain my physical health. So like walking or working out, like making sure I'm getting my energy out. And sometimes things come to me then, but personally not as much. It's usually like if I go out somewhere with the implicit vision of getting something worked through, and I bring, pen and paper, and I just do that, and I just spend some time by myself because I'm very introverted like that, then it works really well for me. So I think for everybody, it's just finding something that you really enjoy that allows you to like pull your head out of whatever it's stuck in and just focus singularly on one thing. And when you can get singular focus, I think it's really powerful.
Yeah, I agree. I'm all about flow state and Nihai Csikszentmihalyi's book. I can't even pronounce his last name, but yeah, just the idea of flow and the idea of actually being focused on one thing without having distractions around you really helps you actually becoming a much more effective. And when it comes down to that, actually, when you are working with SEO and content marketing and with software companies, have you found actually uh, something changing or some trends that are happening right now when it comes to coming up with marketing? I know that you probably have to study it every single day to make sure that you're innovating for your clients. Like, what have you found 6 years into it? I'm sure even more, being in the business, but what has changed this year actually when it comes to marketing and your expertise, SEO?
Yeah, I mean, within marketing in general and SEO, I think what's interesting is like the manual link building stuff that I think was really big back in the day. It's just not working like it used to. And the demand for it's gone down too. There's not a lot of people who want to do it. So I think that's pretty interesting. I think link building is going to phase itself out over the next 3 years pretty heavily.
Wow.
So that's one area. But I would say the biggest thing that's going on right now is people are trying to figure out how to make paid social work for them in B2B. Because what's happening is search engines don't have firmographic data, so you can't control quality as you scale.
That's right.
Quality is usually like a fixed percentage or a variable percentage that has a diminishing marginal return. So the more you spend on a term, the more leads you might get, but quality is inversely correlated. So you're going to get fewer quality leads as you scale, because let's say someone searches ERP software. You sell ERP software. What you can't do is you can't get better leads because the searcher doesn't intrinsically know that an enterprise ERP is what they should have searched. And so, in other words, you can't control the size. So you're going to just get whatever the market is. So if 25% of the market is SMB, you're going to get 25% of your leads as SMB, and there's nothing you can really do about it. You can do ad copy and things like that, which, there's tricks, but they all work within like a relative amount of impact compared to paid social, where you can go on LinkedIn and make sure you only advertise to people with this many employees, with this title, in this industry, in this country, or this state, or in this county, whatever that is, right? You can get a very controlled firmographic, demographic, like makeup. Now, the problem that B2B always had was then there was no intent. So search has intent and social has data. And so they didn't work. So we started to use a lot of direct response things in social and are now driving appointments for B2B directly from LinkedIn or Facebook. And that's been the biggest game changer, I think, for our own business. Is like right now, Directive gets about 15 to 20 like intro calls a day.
Wow.
Of software companies who want to work with us through our own advertising and marketing efforts, as well as outbound. And so when you have a pipeline like that, it makes it a lot easier to run your business for sure. But it took, 6-7 years to get there. But yeah, paid social, I think paid social is really where the future is because until Google gives us that B2B data, you're able to control quality and scale so much better from having the right audience to start that you can't do on Google.
That's right. And when you, it's an interesting subject, actually, what you said about using your own marketing on your own company, because you're actually also a marketing company, right? And so
Yeah.
it's that tough, not even it's a tough decision, but it's actually you asking yourself those simple questions of like, I have to be my own client now, and I have to figure out what my marketing and advertising strategy is. And when you were working with clients and you're working with different software companies, how often do you actually change up your messaging or your branding, or do you find that you've kept the same marketing and advertising for a good amount of time and you're comfortable where it is, or do you find yourself changing that your marketing and advertising strategy on a monthly basis or on a quarterly basis?
No, I mean, we've rebranded probably like 4, 5, 6 times at Directive just as we get our focus right. So every time I get a deeper focus, I want my brand and message to be deeper aligned. So, like at one point we were B2B, another point we were enterprise, and then we finally like just said software only. Because even when we were B2B or enterprise, we were still targeting software companies.
Yeah.
So we were kind of just doing a different version of it. So every time we do that, right, you need to redo your copy, you need to redo your messaging, your value propositions. So for us, I think the moment is just like when it could be better, you should do something about it. Like, you know what I mean? Like if you got an idea, if you learn something about your business, as you're having more conversations, as you go deeper into what you're trying to accomplish, you need to change it. But I mean, I treat our sales and marketing like it's R&D. I mean, we spend similar amounts of money on sales and marketing as like our biggest clients. Like we really invest heavily because like I know what works for SDR team. So when I'm selling someone like why this is going to be a good lead generation tactic, it's because I've got 4 SDRs, 3 AEs, full marketing team. I'm spending $500,000 a quarter or something, let's say. Like whatever that number is, like it's real money and it's a real team and it's like real KPIs, objectives. And so the tactics, I can see that work and don't work and I can understand why. And then for me, I still spend a lot of time supporting sales. It's very easy to pitch a concept that you intimately understand,
right?
And you have real data on. And so for me, it's more about making sure, like we have a whole innovation team at Directive. Like we have innovation managers. All they do is drive innovation in a deliverable, full-time job. And so I'm trying to get like innovations into sales pitch to change operations and then make us better. Every net new account we get better. Right? We have something sharper in our tool set. We have a tactic that's deeper aligned. We have an approach that's more strategic and bigger for their business and how it affects their product. And so that level of energy and tenacity is hard to beat us, if you're competing with us in a sales pitch, because they don't have the same focus, and that's how I think we keep growing.
I love that. Garrett, I'm really impressed with all the knowledge that and how you really have evolved from the days of Fiverr and the days of working with a shawarma shop and a hookah shop or a plumber, and then having a company where you're spending $500,000 for quarterly on sales and marketing, and that just shows that you're dedicated to your craft, and I admire that. You have a really
thanks,
your team is lucky to have a leader like you. And speaking of which, I know that you have limited time as a CEO of a business, so before we go, I'd love to know what's your advice actually to a lot of companies out there, or even software companies out there who are just looking to build their brands and actually increase their sales, or if anything, spread the message they're trying to spread.
Yeah, I mean, you got to focus on your gross margin. I think everything has to come back to gross margin. Everybody in business talks about net margin, but net margin's funky because net margin is really easy to manipulate. You can spend less. You can get rid of an office. You can pause marketing advertising. You can outsource bookkeeping. You can get rid of your assistant. You can decrease executive pay. There's all sorts of easy ways to change your net income and make your numbers look big. Oh, you want to sell, you're going to sell in a year. You can change a bunch of things, make your net income look good. What's really hard to change and takes the real depth of strategy and hard work is changing your gross profit. How much does it cost to deliver the thing someone bought from you? And if you get really good at hitting like upwards of 65% gross margin on every single client, you can spend 30% of revenue on sales and marketing. Mm-hmm. And then it's hard to beat you. But there's no money left over if you're getting sub 50% gross margin. If you're getting around 50, if you're averaging a 50% gross margin, it's really hard for your business to scale, in my opinion, especially if you want to make money as an owner. And so the real wisdom of running a amazing business is gross margin. And I don't think enough people talk about it or think about it in the business community. Investors don't really value it that much. Private equity, all your valuations are based on like 5x EBITDA. It's always EBITDA. Mm-hmm. And so people always think of how they're going to get the net income. But they don't understand those, like, as you pursue tactics that improve your net income, you have an adverse effect on things like retention rate and top line revenue growth. Retention rate, because you're going to get rid of your back office. You're going to get rid of admin, like retention rate of employees, like a lot of the, like just the admin side of your business, you devalue when you're pursuing EBITDA. And then a lot of your sales and marketing, you put efficiency too high on the pedestal, because efficiency takes years. Like, efficiency is really expensive and harder than people think. And so what they do is they just say, hey, we're not going to spend more than this. Go try to do your best. And then, it's just like a haphazard way of trying to drive growth. So I think if you get really good at managing your gross margin, you can always make your EBITDA look better later. Like, there are a lot of ways to grow EBITDA. I think it's really, really important, though, that you focus on your gross margin. So yeah, that's what I would say.
Wow, it's incredibly valuable. Garrett, actually, this is such a great conversation, just because we talked a lot about leadership and how to run a business correctly and how to scale. And I think that's very valuable to all of our listeners here on Creative Haven. So hopefully you guys are having a treat. So thank you so much, Garrett. I really appreciate having this conversation with you. And how can we find you online, and how can we support?
Yeah. So the team here runs like a free Slack group. It's got, I think, almost 500 members now. I don't know the exact number, but it's all like demand gen, like people in software, like marketers in software. They do it. It's really cool though. Like, so my whole growth team, so all the people that run all my stuff that work with me, they're in that Slack group. And so we help people free of charge. So totally free. Like, any question you want to ask, like, we answer it. And then you can follow me on LinkedIn or Twitter. Yeah, I'm always pretty active. So if you guys got any questions, just shout it out and I'll get back to you.
Sounds good, my friend. Well, thank you so much for your time, and good luck today with the rest of your work.
All right. Thanks, Mitchel.
Bye. Thank you, Garrett.
Thank you for listening to the Creative Haven podcast. And if you dig it and like what you heard today, please give us a nice review and rating and share it with one of your friends that you think needs some creative inspiration. You can always find more content and resources at thecreativehaven.com, and hit me up on Instagram at Mitchel Dumlao. And if you want to reach out, collab, or ask any questions, you have my permission to slide into my DMs. So keep positive, continue to learn and hone your craft, and create all day. Salamat.